I wish I would have seen the red flags earlier. I wish I would have been aware of the situation and not spend so many years of my life walking down this path in a relationship that's somewhat doomed to failure. As a therapist, I hear clients speak about this often. They wish they would have been aware of the red flags in the relationship and they would have known sooner than later. If you found yourself in that position, or if you're actually going out to date and you don't want to waste too much of your precious time, you can't miss this video. Hi friends, Ashley Berges back today, and today I'm going to be talking about, well, not all the red flags on a first date, but I'm going to be talking about the 15 major red flags that you need to be aware of in your first date so that you don't waste time in the wrong relationship and you're aware of what you're getting yourself into. The first red flag in a first date is last minute changes to the plans of the date or a full-on cancellation toward the last minute. Okay, when somebody makes changes to the plans that have already been in motion, unless it really accelerates the date, usually it's a sign that someone really doesn't respect your time or your energy because you had plans set and that seemed to be working fine. And so they normally change those plans and augment those plans to benefit them in some way. So that's a red flag. Also, somebody that's canceling the date at the last minute, and if it's not some sort of dire straits situation, like they're going to the hospital or something like that, is a huge red flag, especially when somebody comes back the next week and tries to set up another date with you. Usually, that's signifying the fact that there was a bigger, better deal that came in, and so they took the bigger, better deal, and then when they actually don't have a bigger, better deal, they'll reach out to you to see if you'll go on a date with them. The second red flag is that they show up really late. Okay, and I know you're like, Ashley, how late is really late? Honestly, I think anything past like 25 to 30 minutes is too late. That's showing that they don't care about your time, okay, that they're actually more important than you. And unless they have literally called and apologized because of some huge reason, other than that, it just shows that this is par for the course. That if you continue to date this person, you will be at their beck and call, and they'll show up whenever they feel like it. The third red flag is that this is the first date and they're asking a lot of questions about your exes, about how many exes you've had, about your sex life, too much information in the first few hours of actual interaction face to face. I think the first date needs to be not like surfacey, but I think it needs to be more about seeing if you click together, not about each other's pasts. Because I feel like that is starting to get into territory that's something you can talk about later, but definitely doesn't define you as an individual. And I think it's getting a little too, I don't know, personal in the very beginning of something that needs to start off slow. The fourth red flag is that the other person is looking all over the restaurant and not paying attention to you. Now, I understand attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyper disorder, okay? If someone's got a little bit of ADD, that's one thing. But if someone really looks as if they're not really that interested in the conversation and they're interested in everything around them, it's kind of a sign that they're not, one, not paying attention, and two, they're kind of disrespecting you. And so I feel like in the first date, this is supposed to be very interesting. You're supposed to be listening to each other's words. You're supposed to actually be interested in knowing, is this going to work or not? And if someone's not really showing that attention to you, it's kind of a red flag that this is probably not going to work out very well. The fifth red flag is that this person has a tendency of not being able to put down the phone, is constantly texting, or having to get up from the table often to make a call. I understand emergencies, and I understand that a lot of us have responsibilities. But this is the first date, okay? And there should be like kind of a giddiness and an interest in knowing the other person. And I feel that when this is happening, it's a sign that the other person's really not giddy about it, not really that interested in it. And it's also showing that whatever's going on their phone is more interesting than you. The sixth one, and I know that many of us know this one, but sometimes we really don't think about it when we're in the beginning of a relationship, is that the other person talks about themselves pretty much nonstop. It's the narcissistic red flag, okay? It's about their business and their success at work or whatever it is. And sometimes it can be very interesting, and sometimes it can even suck us in because maybe those are certain things that we would like to have in our life, or maybe those are certain things that we value or respect, and we don't really realize that we haven't gotten much of a word in edgewise, except to maybe ask some questions about their job or their home or whatever it is. However, when someone's talking the majority of the time and you've tried to kind of get a word in there, this is the narcissistic red flag that you need to be aware of, because like I said earlier, more often than not, people take the first dates to be on their best behavior. And if they're not really throwing the ball back in your court for conversation, it really shows that they're really all about themselves. The 7th red flag is that in the middle of the conversation on the first dates, they're telling you about how their ex is mean, angry, and abusive. And they go into bad-mouthing about the ex, okay? Definitely not a conversation for the first few dates. This is a conversation for you to get to know the other person, not to talk about past issues, right? Personal past issues. And I feel that this is a red flag that demonstrates, one, that they haven't dealt with their past relationships, they haven't dealt with their anger, resentment of the past relationship, or they're not over their ex. Definite red flag that you want to really think about before entering into next dates after this one. The 8th red flag. The other person goes to the bathroom too often, and when they return, they seem really speedy or out of sorts when they come back to the table. Yes, being able to be alerted to the fact that somebody is under the influences of massive amounts of alcohol or drugs during the first date, okay? And I know that some of us don't ever think about that at all, but this is a big red flag. And it's not until you get into a relationship with somebody that is addicted to speed or cocaine or something like that do you realize how important it was to be aware of what was going on in those first dates. So if somebody's taking a lot of bathroom breaks and they're coming back to the table acting a little different, a little wonky, a little speedy, like talking too much, really need to be aware of that and really kind of either ask the question or be aware of the fact that this person is probably under the influences of drugs, and definitely a red flag of something probably not to pursue. The 10th red flag is slight devaluations of you. And I know you're asking, what does that mean? And it's when the other person is making light about something about you that they find unattractive, okay? Or pointing out something that they don't like about you in the first dates, which is not good. So maybe making light about something you're wearing that they don't think is really that nice, or making light of your weight, or maybe the way your hair looks, or maybe really getting into something even deeper, perhaps maybe the way that your voice sounds or how you laugh, and kind of devaluing it and making fun of it and making you feel kind of bad. This is a huge red flag, okay? This is a game changer. This doesn't work. So if somebody's doing that in the first dates, that's your red flag to probably end the dinner in a positive way. And remember that if somebody's devaluing you already in the first few dates, this is a sign that this person will fully devalue you throughout the relationship, making you feel small and weak and taking away even greater from your self-esteem and your self-value. The 11th red flag, and I had a little bit of fun with this one, is that they're overly dramatic and sucking your will to live. We've all been at a dinner party or at an event where you get into a conversation with somebody and everything is completely over the top. I mean, it literally sucks and drains your energy because you're listening to everything they have to say, but they're so dramatic and it's just, whoa, it's bigger than life. And that's not a normal relationship. Okay, that's kind of what we get from drama queens and various different personalities. And so that's a big red flag that this is not a relationship that you can sustain. Okay, because in order to sustain a relationship, you have to have energy. There's got to be a two-way street. You've got to feel good about being around the person. And maybe this person was just a little stressed out on the first date, but if it's the same on the second date and third date, this is a red flag that you can't keep up this energy level. You like them, but you don't really want to deal with the drama level, and it's probably not the right person for your future. The 12th red flag is that they don't accept disagreement very well. So if you disagree with something that they're talking about, it's like they begin to argue to prove their point. Okay? And that's fine. A good debate, a healthy debate is fine. In any date, any relationship, that's good. It pushes people to really think outside of their shell. It pushes people to really look at new perspectives, right? But when somebody literally will go to the ends of the earth to defend how they feel, and they will not take no for an answer, this is a big red flag. Because in a relationship, both people need to be able to respect each other's choices and beliefs and shouldn't be trying to control the other person's beliefs and choices, okay? So it's a huge red flag to say, hey, this might be somebody that you can have a conversation with, but definitely not the long haul relationship, because the long haul relationship is about respect and trust and love, and respect is one of the biggest components. And if somebody doesn't respect your choice or doesn't respect the fact that you disagree, that's a sign that you should probably exit stage right. The 13th red flag, if you're on a first date and you happen to be at a restaurant or an event, they treat the waitstaff or whoever is serving you rudely. This is a huge red flag. Because I've realized that everybody on this planet has value. And when you have value and you recognize your own value, you treat other people with respect. Okay? You value other people no matter what position in life they're in. No matter if they're your waitress or your bartender. Okay? So if the other person is treating them poorly, that's a sign of them having a low self-esteem. Okay? That's the sign of them having a huge ego. And that's a huge red flag because it shows you that they don't treat people with respect and that they define people's titles and define if they're worthy of respect. It also shows that there's a power play involved and that they're putting this person down for whatever reason. And I've never had a good relationship with anybody that puts down people and disrespects people, because I've seen that it's a sign of their weakness, not the weakness of the other person. Number 14, and I love this one because this is a really important one that a lot of us really don't think about. And the reason we don't think about it is a lot of us are what we call saviors. We're like in that savior whole dynamic. Like, we're going to save you no matter what. And so number 14 is that the other person asks you to help them do something, pay off something, do something big in the very beginning. Okay? And I'll give you a good example of this one because I recently had a client in my office that said that on their first date, mind you, they actually had to pay to get their car from being repossessed. So on the very first date, they met this woman. They go out on the first date, and before the date's over with, she's telling about how her car is about to be repossessed that night, and he ends up paying cash to stop them from repossessing the car. Okay? That's too much. Okay? And I know a lot of you saviors out there are like, oh, wow, I've done so much of that stuff. Whether it's like I don't have rent money, whatever it is, it's something big. And you just met this person and you're taking care of it. And I know some of you out there want to be the savior. I get it. But when we want to be the savior and we're trying to save everybody else, we got to ask ourselves, why aren't we saving ourselves? Okay? And being the savior and having that savior complex is also identifying to you personally that you really need to get aware of who you are before you walk into the dating pool again, because otherwise you're going to get taken advantage. Not necessarily that they're just taking advantage of you, but you're also letting them take advantage of you. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where you're bailing somebody out, you're giving somebody money in the first few dates, this is a big red flag. You need to step back and analyze, one, why are you doing this? And two, why are they asking you for it? And thinking that you're going to give it to them anyway. Last but not least, number 15. The other person loses their cool with you or somebody at the restaurant or somebody in the event that you're at, and then they try to make light of it. They try to defend the situation. And so they basically have like this whole anger outburst, okay? A temper tantrum on the first few dates. Not a good sign, okay? If everything's kind of normal and you're just having a discussion and their temper begins to flare and they get angry and they're raising their voice for whatever reason, this is a sign that this person has anger issues, okay? And anybody that's gotten into a relationship with someone with intense anger issues knows that this is a big deal. This is a huge red flag, because if it starts in the first few dates, that's a sign that they don't have any ability to control their anger. And I know that many people out there say, well, I'm angry because of my ex-girlfriend, my ex-boyfriend, or I'm angry because of my parents, or I'm angry because of this and that, but I can compartmentalize it. That's BS. Okay, so anybody that shows anger and anger issues in the first dates is not somebody that you want to go out with. Okay, and you can feel bad about them, and you can feel like they need some help, but just because they need help doesn't mean that you need to be the person that helps them. Okay, so really recognize that. I believe that all of these red flags are very interesting, and in order to really see these red flags, we have to do two things. One, we have to be mindful in the moment, in the date. Not just giving all our energy to him or her, but being very mindful of how we're feeling. Being very aware of what they're telling you. And also being able to notice actions just as much as listening to words. Because if somebody's telling you something and their actions are speaking something different, this is also a red flag. Because when we're around somebody that our energies connect and it's a positive thing, you can feel it. You don't feel kind of sick to your stomach. You don't feel overwhelmed. You actually are enjoying the time and you're enjoying yourself. Very important things. And so what I found is a lot of times in these first dates, we want to date so bad, we want to meet somebody so much that we let a lot of this stuff just blow by us. And we think, well, maybe I didn't hear it correctly, or maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe I'm just making too much of a big deal about it. But really, these flags are here to save you from walking down that path and spending all that time in a relationship that's going to cause you unhappiness, it's going to cause you stress, anxiety, and later on down the road, you're going to be in my office talking about how you wish you wouldn't have wasted so much time in this relationship that was a dead end. I hope this video has helped you, and I hope you can share this video on first date red flags with some of your friends that are out there dating, looking for Mrs. Right or Mr. Right. And remembering the fact that in order to really truly date successfully, we need to have actually understood who we are and have that unconditional love for ourselves so that we know and we understand what's important in the other person because we've already found it within ourselves. And please take time to actually check the like button on this video. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you have other red flags that you would like to bring up that you've experienced on first dates, please comment in the comment section below. I was only able to have enough time to list 15. I know there's hundreds, and so I definitely want to hear from you. In the meantime, don't forget to live your true life. Are you currently in a toxic relationship and unsure what the next day will bring? Have you often wondered if there's more to life than this? Do you suffer from self-esteem issues that you've had since you were a young child? Have issues or have difficulty speaking with your family? Do you feel surrounded by self-centered people? Seems as though you're always giving and they're always taking. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, you need some answers. The 10-day challenge to live your true life gives you the knowledge and techniques for creating boundaries in your life that help us to deal with family, as well as dealing with those narcissistic and toxic people in your life. It offers the insight into understanding and overcoming your self-esteem issues, and to begin to see for the first time your amazing value. You owe it to yourself to find the power within you.